Hi Maria, in this video I want to talk about the intercultural conflict. I'm going to follow your activities describing the conflict, reflecting on the cultural components, and think a possible solution or way to prevent future and similar conflicts. I want to start with the definition of a conflict. Definition of a conflict is an expressed struggle between interdependent parties with an incompatible goals or unmet emotional needs. In an intercultural context, conflict is the explicit or implicit emotional struggle or frustration between people from different cultures over perceived incompatible goals, norms, values, face concerns, scarce resources, and communication outcomes. As we know, people bring with them different sets of culturally constructed perspective toward appropriate behavior. With this in mind, it is not surprising that the conflict and disputes exist when communicating across cultures. Further, it should be not surprised that within the context of conflict, people have different sets of perceptions about appropriate ways to handle that conflict. For this work, I want to, I'll select a case in Ecuador, in the Amazonian region. It's about the Millennium Educational Units in Ecuador, or in Spanish, las escuelas del milenio y las ciudades del milenio. The conflict is, I'm going to explain what is this. These Millennium Educational Units have been an emblematic project of the educational revolution promoted by the government of Rafael Correa. This project proposed as the new school model for Ecuador in the 21st century. New buildings would offer complete education, initial, basic, and baccalaureate, and a single campus. In rural areas, ideally, this would prevent families from sending their children to the city to continue secondary education. Also, this would open its door to the local community, which could take advantage of its facilities. The benchmark of the new public education in the country and an example of the region. This model proposed to rationalize school buildings in the territory, merging several schools in the surrounding area. This led to the closure of 100 of small schools and community, one teacher, and intercultural, especially in rural areas. School transportation was offered to those who live more than 3 kilometers from the school. The Ministry of Education do not consider what the people want. So when this building was inaugurated, began a lot of critics to the government, critics to the investment, and critics to the function of these public spaces. Because the Amazonia, and I want to show you these pictures. You can see all the rainforest and how they eliminate the nature, and this become a very weird part in this place. No, it's not their place anymore. And when we don't understand that others may have a quite different starting points, conflict is more likely to occur and to escalate. And that is what happened. Even though the starting points themselves are neutral, negative motives are easily attributed to someone who begins from a different end of the continuum. They want to make good things for poor people and for people who are living in rural areas, but they don't consider many of the aspects about these people. So I want to talk about the Amazon rainforest is one of the large ethnographic and cultural diversity regions in Ecuador. There is located the famous national Yasuní National Park. This region is denominated by the Shuar people, a people that have fought a hard fight against the oil companies to preserve their territory. In the Amazon, there are ethnic groups which do not have contact with Western society. In the Amazonian plateau, we find indigenous nationalities of the East. These ethnic groups are Quechua, Guarani, Achuar, Shuar, Cofán, Siona Secoya, Chihuar, Zapara, and Andoas. The Tagario and Taromenani linked with the Guarani are not contacted by Western civilization, living away because they will. The Shuar people have been long studied and are the largest cultural group of the Amazon basin of Ecuador. Shuar people, like many of other Amazonian nationalities, is dedicated to the agriculture and also practicing fishing, hunting, and farming. Agriculture and cattle raiding are not considered traditional practices of these people. They actually are part of these activities because today they are a sedentary population. The jungle has been expropriated by the transnational corporations and oil companies, and that's why they have been forced to live in a single territory to defend it, thereby changing great part of its socio-cultural system with no specific land. So I show you this picture and you can see it's not the same place where these ethnic groups used to live. I think it was a good purpose to develop these areas, but they don't ask them for anything. So the communication was interrupted and they only imposes over them this kind of culture. The Wauranis for many years didn't want to be contacted, and there were many conflicts there. They murdered foreigners who came to study about them because they don't understand what our people want from them. So I think the possible solutions for this conflict is to make agreements with the people, to ask them what they want, what they need in reality. Their needs is not the same that our needs. We are living in cities with buildings, with roads, and without a lot of nature as them. But in this case, that those people did not ask what they want. So the communication was interrupted from the beginning. So the conflict it was obvious to come. So to understand the way of thinking from their worldview perspective, they love nature, they fight for nature, they fight for animals, for the wildlife, for the rain, for the river, for the air, for the sun. They adore nature as a mother nature. So in this kind of conflicts, it's very, very important to communicate it in a good way, to understand, to listen what the people need, what the people want. It's the only way to avoid any kind of intercultural conflict. So here's the work cited, and thank you. I hope you enjoy this video, and see you soon.